part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Run, William, run! He's got blockers in front. 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score! Kick block! They block the kick!
Yo, real quick, Tyvis, what years did you go to Ohio State?
2012 to 2015.
Was DeVere Posey there with you at all?
No, he left the year before I got there.
Oh, the year before. Okay. I know Depot well from when he was up in the CFL. I covered the CFL real closely.
Oh, yeah. That's my dog. We just did, he did the tailgate show with me. I was working with the Big Ten this past year, and we had him on as a guest when we did the Old State thing. So, yeah, DeVere, that's my dog.
Nice, bro. Yeah, he's good people.
Yes, he is.
Tyvis, you played. This is the Orange is Oranger, by the way, Cleveland Browns podcast. I'm Holly. This is Tyvis. We have a special guest tonight, Justin Dunk. What a cool name, by the way. I love your last name. I was going to ask if you played basketball, but you played football. You were quarterback? Is that right?
Yo,
Justin?
You did your research.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't play NCAA Division I like Tyvis or in the NFL or anything, but I played at the University of Guelph. It's just outside of Toronto in Canada.
So nice, so man. You cover the CFL. You work for the BLEAV network. You're a Jaguars analyst. So we're going to be talking about the Browns-Jags matchup this weekend. Tyvis, didn't you play in the CFL, or you got an offer to go play in the CFL, right?
I was there for a couple T. I was there. I was with the BC Lions. I did training camp with them, and I was actually the last cut coming out of training camp, which is ridiculous because, you know what, I'm going to show you some highlights from when I was playing. I was unbelievable. I led the team in picks in training camp. I started safety the entire year until the last week of training camp. They decided to move me to like an outside linebacker type position. But I don't. I tell you what, that is a very dark time of my life that I really don't want to go down that road right now. It was very, very dark after I got cut. Like I was down in the dumps, which is very rare for me.
What year was that, Tyvis?
This was 21.
2021. Did they move you around because of the ratio?
They moved me around.
You know what the ratio is? I'm guessing you know what the ratio is.
Yeah, they want to have the inner. You got to have like, you can only have like 7 Americans or something like that.
You got to have 7 Canadians starting and 21 on the roster. Right.
Yeah. So no, they wanted to have an all-American backfield secondary. So everybody in the secondary was U.S. and they was going to use the linebackers and the D line and a couple of D linemen to be Canadians. And but. Like I say, we'll talk about that off air. I tell you everything off air.
I knew there was a connection. I couldn't remember, Tyvis, if you had actually played up there or not. Justin, you cover we are going to talk about the Jags, but I am super curious just about the CFL. What's the biggest difference?
The
field, okay, and then I guess covering it. What do you like about it, and what do you not like about it compared to the U.S.?
It's a good question. It's interesting because the entire population of Canada is essentially the same as California. Okay, so you got to look at it from that perspective. So in Canada, on a per capita basis, if you can believe this, at least the last number of years, there's been more people that watch the NFL than the United States on a per capita basis. So when you're talking about the CFL and numbers, traffic on the website for 3donation.com, which is my main thing up here, then you kind of have to look at it from a per capita perspective, right? So the biggest difference I would say is that the NFL just has endless amounts of money, right? They print money. Where the CFL, there are teams back in the day that literally had telethons, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, just to stay alive. They're not at that point anymore. It's actually really stable ownership right now. But I would say the CFL is probably a little more folksy. The access is probably better in large part for the fans, where the NFL is like very corporate. I would say that is kind of the main difference that I've noticed so far over the years.
Very interesting. I always wondered, never been to a Canadian football game.
You know what? You actually
Um,
would enjoy it because
I bet I would.
it's I tell you what, from a playing standpoint, and for a secondary player, I actually enjoy playing there more than I did the NFL. Only actually, I think more people would enjoy the CFL if they paid as much as the NFL. I think more
Hmm.
people would actually like to play in the CFL because of it's such a passing league. You know, instead of 4 downs, it's 3 downs. If you're a wide receiver or a DB, you know they passing 90% of the time. So it's essentially
Hmm.
just the big 7-on-7. So
All you got to do is Google Chad Ochocinco or Chad Johnson CFL. He's got mad respect for it, and he'll talk about
yeah.
coming up to the Montreal Alouettes when they signed him and thinking he was just going to shred the league. But he had
Hmm.
respect. He was saying, Tyvis, to your point, that a lot of the guys that are in the CFL, maybe it's just timing is the reason they got cut in the NFL, or they just didn't get the chance, or where they were however it worked out. But there's
Hmm.
a lot of talented guys up here. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of the biggest name guys that are in the league right now that have ties to the NFL. Like Chad Kelly would be one, nephew of Jim Kelly, who's starting for the Toronto Argonauts. Johnny Manziel famously came up here, flopped
Hmm.
on his face in Montreal, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, kind of
We
similar
know Johnny
to what he,
in
yeah,
Cleveland.
exactly to what he did in Cleveland there. That's why I had to put that tie in there. But man,
Hmm.
Tyvis is right. Like, it's a very unique game. It's fast paced, 20-second play clock. So when you're playing DB or receiver, man, like you got to get back to the line of scrimmage and get ready to run the next play because 20 seconds, another one's coming at you. So when you get into the end of the game, the big thing a lot of people talk about in Canada, there's the 3-minute warning up here, not the 2-minute warning. It's another subtle difference. In the 3-minute warning, inside that time, you can have multiple changes of possession. Where in the NFL, depending on the score, you might have one or two, right? If you're lucky, depending on what's
Hmm.
going on. So it's a big difference in the CFL.
All right, well, let's talk about this the corporate NFL with the Jags that you cover. So last night, well, we're recording this on Tuesday, so big blow to the Jaguars last night with Trevor Lawrence going down. Um, Justin, what's kind of the latest? Saw that the MRI came back, um, pretty good. So there is a possible chance he'd play this weekend. What's the latest, and how are the Jaguars fans feeling?
Yeah, I think for Lawrence, there is a possibility that he'll play. You know, I had Dr. David J. Chow on my Believe in Jaguars show today, and he put it at 50-50. He's a former NFL doc, was in the league for over 17 years. Based on him assessing this injury, Doug Peterson called it a high ankle sprain. So, you know, obviously, as Tyvis will know, it's not the greatest injury to try to deal with, but it seems like structurally there's no damage there. And it's just probably going to be more about pain tolerance, and I think CJ Beathard is going to get most, if not all, of the reps this week in practice. Lawrence doesn't really need to practice because he knows the offense so well. So that's the latest on Lawrence, and I think they're okay with going with Beathard. But I mean, this Cleveland defense and that front led by Myles Garrett is an absolute beast. And I think the one injury that could, in actuality, in some ways, kind of be worse and affect the team more is Walker Little. He's a versatile guy on the offensive line. Has started at left tackle, kicked inside to left guard when Cam Robinson came back. Robinson's now on IR, of course, so he kicked back out to left tackle. But there's some questions around his availability this week, and if he's out, and the Jaguars have to start like Blake Hance, who came in for him at left tackle in that game on Monday night, that could just be disastrous for Jacksonville.
You know what I like? I know CJ. I played with him in San Francisco for many years. So CJ it's a good guy from Iowa Hawkeye. Anyways, um, Christian Kirk. You know, I seen that he went down, and I think he's on IR and he's out for the rest of the year. You know, he's been a big surprise to me. You know, when he signed to Jacksonville, I was like. First of all, let me tell you, Justin, I got a lot of respect for Christian Kirk because Christian Kirk scored a game-winning touchdown on me when I played for San Francisco. But that's neither here nor there.
Ooh.
How big has he been for Jacksonville? And who do y'all look to next for the next wide receiver outside of Calvin Ridley, of course?
He's been huge, and you mentioned Ridley there. Kirk leads the team in receiving yards at this
Yeah.
point in time through the season. So I think he's been a real security blanket for Trevor Lawrence. He's been there for a while now with Lawrence to develop that rapport, and he's a guy that stretches the field vertically. You just mentioned it there, the touchdown that he caught on you. Like this guy can get deep real quick. So I think the Jaguars are holding out hope that maybe he doesn't have to have that season-ending surgery on this core muscle injury that he sustained on the first play of Monday Night Football offensively for Jacksonville, and maybe it's something that he could try to play through and push the surgery off until the offseason. But he's been absolutely critical for this offense. Calvin Ridley's kind of been hot and cold. Zay Jones is a real other key piece for this offense, but he's been dealing with a knee injury, and I don't think he's playing at 100% right now. So Kirk is going to be a big loss in terms of who steps up. It's going to be Parker Washington to get the first real shot. He came into that game on Monday Night Football, had 6 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Looked pretty good for a rookie playing in his first ever NFL game on the big prime time stage. So he'll get the first shot. I would think that they're going to mix in Jamal Agnew in that slot role as well. We've seen him in and out of the lineup kind of a little bit. So I think it's going to be Washington, but I also think that you're going to see a guy like Evan Ingram get a bunch more targets, a very talented tight end.
Going back to the QB for a little bit, we know here in Cleveland that the vet QBs can, step in when necessary. Good old Joe Flacco last week came back, kind of dispelling any type of real rust after not playing for, I think it was almost a year. But I did see there's some rumors around with, the Jags kind of maybe following in those footsteps of bringing a vet QB if depending on what happens with Trevor. I saw Nick Foles' name floated out there. Is there any real truth to that for the Jags?
Peterson kind of tried to dispel that. He was asked about that today and said, they haven't had these discussions yet about bringing in a veteran quarterback. I'll give you guys a hot take right now, and yes, it might be somewhat biased, but
Ooh.
I actually think the Jaguars would be better overall at the quarterback position outside of Trevor Lawrence if Nathan Rourke, the Canadian kid who's been on the practice squad, started for this team. You guys remember that play he made in the preseason?
Yeah,
It was the number one play on NFL Network. I've seen this guy up close and personal from his days playing high school in Oakville, just outside of Toronto, what he had to go through just to even get the only NCAA Division I offer that he had at Ohio University, what he put up there, the way that he has transformed his throwing mechanics. He went from like a sub 60% passer while he's with the Bobcats to being a guy that was like almost touching 80 in the CFL last year. He had an unbelievable year for the BC Lions last year. If he didn't suffer a Liz Frank injury, he probably would have been the CFL's most outstanding player. That's kind of our version of the NFL MVP up here in Canada. This kid is legit. He's locked in. He's working with a guy by the name of Rob Williams, a guy that's really about body mechanics and throwing motion that I think is going to continue to have a major impact on guys as they continue to look at throwing the ball and how you should actually be doing that in terms of your body mechanics. So I'll give you guys that hot take. Yes, it's biased. I'm Canadian. I was a Canadian that played the position as well up here. But Nathan Rourke, I think, if given the opportunity, could be the real deal.
I know Nathan very well. Obviously, I was.
You were there.
I was there.
I was say he played for the BC Lions, right? That's where he was the star.
So let me tell you the first thing I learned about Nathan. So if you don't, BC had this quarterback long time. He's like a legend. I can't think of what his name.
Michael Riley.
Yeah, Michael Riley. He's been there for like 30 years, and he was going. He had like an elbow injury. So Nathan became the starting quarterback in camp. So my first impression of Nathan is, how when y'all probably don't know. So when you play a DB, right, and somebody runs like a deep route, you be like, and you covering it, like I'm talking about, like you clear as day have it covered. Usually the quarterback kind of just check it down. Nathan is the quarterback. He still threw it. I'll be like, this dude is insane. So it's actually funny to hear you say that, because I'm like, yeah, he could definitely sling the ball, because you start motoring down thinking you good and he still throw the thing. So yeah, it'd be nice to see Nathan in there. Good for him.
Bro, I'm telling you, Holly's probably like, what are you guys talking about, all this CFL nonsense?
No, it's funny.
No, I'm learning. I'm learning. That's why I'm asking these questions. Really, I'm like, tell me more.
It's sad because it makes me feel like I lived 10 different lives that I know these people. I got scored over by Christian Kirk. I played with Nathan Roy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You can get around there.
All right. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball. This defense it's all right. I'm not gonna say it's top tier, and I'm not gonna say it's bottom tier. Trayvon Walker obviously was the first round pick. I like Andre Cisco at the safety position. What do you think when you look at this Browns offense? What do you see that can cause problems for the Jaguars defense?
I really think it's those two guys up front for Jacksonville, Josh Allen on one side and the dude you mentioned, Walker, the former number one overall pick on the other side. They have over 30 quarterback pressures on the season. Walker's only got 5 sacks, and some people have talked about that and compared him to Aiden Hutchinson, but he's not really the same player. And Walker has such an effect in the run game, I think, that kind of
Mhm.
goes under the radar. And then Allen's right up there among the league leaders in sacks. I mean, 13 and a half. This guy's been an absolute beast. Yes, he's in a contract year, so he's cranked it up another notch. But considering some of the injuries on the Browns' offensive line and what they're playing with up front, I think that is an advantage, really, that favors the Jags.
And then what about the defense? The Browns defense obviously has been having a stellar year up until these last 2 weeks. We have been exposed. And hopefully Jim Schwartz is getting that message. Um, because of that, are the Jaguars, looking to take advantage of that coming into Sunday?
It's going to be different. Obviously, a lot of that depends on if Lawrence is playing. I do think he's going to push to play. He's going to do everything he can to be ready to play. But let's say, regardless who's a quarterback, Lawrence or CJ Beathard, with Kirk out of the lineup, I think that you have to look to get Ridley involved early and often. When he's been at his best and he's been hot and cold with this team so far, it's been when he gets some touches early in the game, gets a feel for it, and then he just seems like he's even more focused and involved and locked in the game when that happens. So I certainly think that that's something that you can take advantage of, right? Denzel Ward has had injury issues from what I understand up there in Cleveland. So I think you got to feed really the ball. And then also Evan Ingram can be a real difference maker. He's got over 70 catches already on the season. Not a super high yardage total, but I think everybody saw that leaping touchdown. He looked like an Olympic long jumper leaping in the end zone there on Monday Night Football. I think if you're looking at the Browns defense and where you can exploit them, it's with those two talented playmakers.
How did Doug Peterson turn this organization around? I mean, last year, at a point in time, they were like terrible, and then they just got really hot towards the end of the season, and obviously they picked up right where they left off this season. So, what do you think led to this change that's made them, a really good team in the NFL?
They call him Dougie P down there, and I think he's really just been steady Eddie. I think that approach has helped out a lot, considering Urban Meyer's out here at the clubs, at
Whoa,
the bars.
whoa,
Watching
whoa,
Ohio
whoa,
State guy over here.
whoa,
I was waiting for Urban's name to get brought up because I was going to bring it up if you were
I
going to
mean,
bring
I
it
ain't
up.
talking about his Ohio State days. We're just talking about Jacksonville. But I feel you. We'll go easy. I think it took some time to change the culture there, right? And really show that Peterson had control of that group. And we saw it. They had a slow start, as you mentioned, last year in 2022. But once Trevor Lawrence got a little bit comfortable in that offense, he had a great second half of the season. Obviously, that was a wild playoff game that they won against the Chargers. But really now the team can see that Peterson can be a fun guy to be around, but he demands that you are focused and locked in when it's time to work. Like when they went over to London, he was okay with, the guys hanging around the hotel, playing video games together, going out to golf. But when it was time to practice and meet and get your work done, you know how it should be, Tyvis, that is what Dougie P expects. So I think he has a nice balance around this team and has created a winning culture there and an expectation from these players that this is how good you can be. And we're going to challenge you to live up to it every single week.
The Jags had looked to seize control of the top spot in the AFC, and then with their loss last night against the Bengals, dropped them to the number 4 seed. Playoffs still high hope, and in realistic hopes, I guess. I know that after last night, things really shifted. Um, Give me your playoff vibes, Justin.
I mean, they definitely shifted, right? Going into that game against Cincinnati, everybody on the ESPN panel and probably around the country was picking the Jaguars to win. And they were talking about them being in the conversation for the number 1 seed in the AFC. But after losing that game and then with the injuries that come with it, I think now you just have to talk about staying ahead in the AFC South division because Houston and Indy somehow with Gardner Minshew there doing his thing and that talented defense have themselves just one game behind Jacksonville in the division. So I think that's really where the focus is right now is making sure that there's a smart decision made to keep Trevor Lawrence as healthy as possible. Maybe if you got to bench him for this week, I think that could potentially be prudent depending on this injury. And you really got to look at that division because you got another big game coming up next week with Baltimore. But I think the talk has gone from number one seed in the AFC to just focusing right now on winning the division.
Mhm.
Talk to me about their run game. Obviously, we know they got Travis Etienne. He's had a pretty decent season. And you got a guy that's near and dear to a lot of Cleveland fans' hearts, Dearness Johnson, who I seen get a little burn the last couple of weeks. So talk about that run game because Cleveland has struggled there in the past few weeks.
Man, he has been getting some burn, Dearness Johnson, and part of the reason for that is Tank Bigsby was drafted early by this team, and they really had high hopes for him. But ball security issues early in the season, I think, caused this shift to really make Travis Etienne a true feature back. Now that said, Etienne Jr. is beat up a little bit. He came out of the last game sore but pretty clean. He's dealing with, I think, some bruised up ribs there. So Dougie P wants to take some of that load off of Etienne Jr., and that's where Dearness Johnson comes into the picture, right? He's gotten more playing time because he's earned the trust of Press Taylor and Doug Peterson and the offensive coaching staff. So I think there is a possibility there where Jacksonville is going to stick to the run game. And I think that's one of the real keys for this football team, considering what the weather might be like and some of the elements there and whether or not Trevor Lawrence is going to be at quarterback. I think they got to be able to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
But Travis Etienne Jr. has shown, from at least a physical standpoint, that yes, there's been some nicks and bruises. He can handle the load as a feature guy. But if he has a competent number two there, whether that's Bigsby or Johnson or somebody else, that I think we're kind of missing the explosiveness from Etienne Jr.'s game that we saw in flashes when he came into the league.
Yeah, that weather is looking kind of rough for Sunday.
Is
There's
it?
like 20, 30 mile an hour winds, rain. So it's very Flacco-esque for us, I hope. Maybe a little bit hopefully tougher for Jacksonville coming in. Have you been to Cleveland before, Justin?
No, I have not.
Oh, what a great city.
Isn't it?
It's probably,
Isn't it
you
great?
know, Tyvis,
That
don't
is.
even.
Hey, man.
Tyvis
Where's
lives in
Tyvis
Columbus
at?
now. He's in Columbus.
Oh, I see.
I'm from
Mhm.
Cleveland, though. That's why I wear the hat. I wear the Cleveland hat all the
He
time.
is.
So just to let everybody know.
Yeah.
You have a good time in Cleveland, man. You never know what you'll get into. You know, Cleveland's one of those places that it gets a bad rap. But if you get there, you go out, you be like, man, I'm having the best time of my life. Just how it
Okay.
is.
I don't know if Holly agrees with you based on her facial expression.
I mean,
Well, you know what I'm laughing is because Tyvis doesn't go out. He's
I don't care.
he's
I'm in Columbus, so you know.
I know. In general.
No, I don't. I'm
Your
I'm
idea of fun is
almost
sparkling water,
listen,
and we
I'm
know this.
almost 30 years old. I'm married with 2 kids. Like that, those days
He's
is
just a good, honest dad. I respect
yeah,
that.
you know, hard work.
Justin, what part of Canada are you in? Where do you live?
Just outside of Toronto.
Just oh yeah, you did say that. Cool. I've always wanted to go to Toronto. It's on my list.
You guys never been up there?
I
I've never been
have.
to Toronto
Well,
before.
not Toronto. I've been to where did we do Carmel Loops? Cam Loops. What
Oh,
is it?
Kamloops. That's out in BC.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah,
I was
that's
at.
West Coast. Way
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
How did you come to cover Jacksonville? Done with this.
Long story short, it actually has to do with Nathan Rourke because when he signed with the Jaguars, we were writing a bunch about his NFL workout tour that he had, and I kind of had some insider info there. And then he signed with the Jags, and then BLEAV reached out and said, "Hey, like, would you want to cover the Jaguars
Yeah.
on our podcast?" And I was like, "Well, I'm really only writing about the Jags right now because this Canadian quarterback is there, but." If you
Yeah.
guys are okay with it, I'll jump right into it and do my research and make sure
Yeah.
I'm all stocked up that way. And they're like, yeah, but are you going to keep covering the Jags even if Rourke isn't there? I'm like, well, yeah, if I give you my commitment, I'll be all in. So that's how
Yeah.
it came to be.
Well, luckily
Very
he's
cool.
still there.
It is.
Yeah. We need to get him on the field though, but we'll see.
It'll come. You know what? It'll come. The thing about the NFL from being there is really just about timing. It's all about timing, and you got to have a coaching staff that really believes in you. I think he showed a lot in that preseason. He definitely showed that he can stick around. But like I say, CJ. The only thing CJ has over him is the experience because CJ's been in the league for many years, and he's seen a lot of defenses. And on top of that, he's been with one of the one of the most brilliant offensive-minded coaches in today's game, and Kyle Shanahan. So, that's pretty much the leg that he has up over him. Outside of that, Nathan's arm talent is really good, so that'll keep him around for a lot of time, for a lot of years.
My man preaching. I love it, dude. I think Rourke understands, and you probably know this from being around him a little bit, the process and what it's like, and the fact that he is a Canadian and coming from the CFL. I think,
Hmm.
it's not the greatest kind of way to get in from a politics standpoint, right? Coaches, this type of CFL, they draft their guys and they want to have those guys.
Hmm.
So the fact that he's kind of fighting that uphill battle, he's already gotten this far, which is pretty good. And there's been a lot of people up in Canada say, well, why did the New York Jets go and pick this guy up? Like, who they're running out there at quarterback?
Yeah.
Ethan Rourke's got to be better than those guys, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's coming from the CFL, so he has the arm talent is there. I mean, obviously we know the field is wider. You're playing with
Hmm.
one extra guy on the field. So he was able to thread the needle. And like I said, with the BC Lions, he was really great. And he was following a guy who's probably gonna go into the Hall of Fame. He ended up replacing him. So and keeping them afloat and making them a playoff team. I mean, 21 they weren't great, but 22 they was right in the thick of things, and it was because of him. So he has the talent to play there. Like I say, the CFL game is a little bit more challenging than the NFL because of the passing aspect. So you ask a guy to come in there with an arm talent and got touch and can throw the ball over the field and make any throw. Nathan Rourke is that guy because, like I say, he did it for the BC Lions on a bigger field with more guys there. So it's just about an opportunity. He wanted if it ever comes to a fact, like say they season just can go south, then he'd probably get in there at the end of the year and he'd have his moment to, make something happen. But for right now, it's all about just understanding that playbook, making sure that you're ready. When you get those preseason reps, make sure you showing that you developed every week in the preseason. Make sure you can show the coach that, hey, I can handle the playbook. I know the checks and adjustments. I can get my protection correct. I can get this running back lined up right. If you could show that you could command the huddle, you tell me what the play is, I can get it to my guys, get out on the field, make sure everything runs smooth, operation time is great. They wouldn't mind putting you in the game. It's a lot. It's a lot for a quarterback, but if you can handle those things, you'll get your shot.
I like it. Good advice.
Be a good matchup. I mean, it's funny. Neither team knows who's
The
has
starting
announced their
quarterback.
starters, so this is
Yeah.
even though we probably know. But and it's looks like the lines the total's pretty low for Sunday. I think it's like 30 points. So Justin, we love to get some predictions. And I just said that and I could be totally reading it wrong because I'm not the betting guru over here. But I'm pretty sure I thought it was 30. So what is your prediction? We'd love to get predictions from everybody.
Yeah, I think it's
We
going
need
to
the
be,
score, we need the whole thing.
a gritty game, to be honest. Like Foye Oluokun, the linebacker for the Jaguars, had kind of coined this phrase, it's not pretty, we're gritty, or, something along those lines. I think it's going to be a gritty game. Even if Lawrence is playing, he probably not going to be at his 100%. Even though earlier in
Mhm.
the year, when he went to New Orleans, everybody was talking about this left knee issue that he had. He put a brace on. He had a career high in rushing yards, which was kind of crazy. But I don't think the Saints were kind of scheming or expecting that. So I think this is going to be like a gritty game where the Jags are going to have to go into the elements, right? They're used to nice, beautiful Florida with the weather down there and all the rest. We're
Mm-hmm.
going into Cleveland, man. You're going into the dog pound. Like, this team is good at home. They got a ferocious front. The weather's going to be
Mhm.
nasty. It's going to be windy. I don't know if these Jacksonville boys are built for that. I think, honestly, though, somehow, some way, the Jags win like a low scoring, like 13-10 kind of a game. Like, I think it'll
Mm.
just be ugly, but I wouldn't put it past Cleveland winning, to be honest.
To be honest with you, it's all about who's playing.
Yeah, and
It's all about
honestly, the
who's
way that this
playing.
season has been going is it's been ugly for the Browns every single week. I mean, and a lot of them have been super close and just what it is at halftime. I mean, and I know that's NFL in general, but like it's been such an up and down, um, and then heart stopping pretty much at the end for a good chunk of the games. But yeah, agree. I think it's going to be a low scoring, dirty game. Tyvis, what's yours?
Y'all are wrong. Y'all are
No.
wrong. The Browns.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Browns are gonna come out there and they're gonna put up approximately 24 points in this game. It's gonna be about a 24. I got 24-10 type of game. Browns win because there's something about when they play in Cleveland that they just play really well. Listen, they've been the defense has been terrible for the last 3 games, but with that dog pound behind them, they're gonna stand up, and make some plays. Miles is not gonna be Miles, but hopefully Denzel is back. If Denzel is back, that helps a lot. It definitely helps a lot, especially in the passing game. I think that you finally get the production from the defensive tackles in this game, because you just mentioned, your left guard might be out, and if that's the case, I think that's something that they take advantage of. I also think that the Browns, no matter who the starting quarterback is, I think it's probably going to be Joe Flacco, because that's just how they roll. Has DTR even cleared the concussion protocol
No,
yet?
he's not,
Oh
and that's
yeah,
what. And
If he don't
no.
clear by tomorrow, then they probably just gonna roll with Joe Flacco. So Joe Flacco's gonna come in there. He's poised. He's upset that he had everything going really well, and then he kind of blew it in the end. So he's gonna go out there to try to make a statement. That crowd's gonna be behind him. They probably gonna be chanting Joe. He gonna feel it, and he gonna make some throws. That's personally what I
And
think.
it's still gonna be weird. I just still can't get over seeing
24
Joe Flacco
13, 24 13.
in a Browns uniform, but especially at home, it's gonna be a wild thing. But I agree. I mean, we've seen from. I mean, I can at least speak for myself that watching last week with Joe out there felt probably some of the best quarterback play we've seen all year, which is crazy. He's our 4th quarterback this year with all the injuries. But there's a commanding presence that he has on the field as a vet. So obviously he's going to have to start. Like, I don't know how they, even if DTR could, I don't know how you do that at this point, but the Browns have done crazier shit. So that is for sure. But I will say, I mean, I don't know. Ugh. I've been taking the Browns every week. Tyvis knows this. So, like, usually, Justin, I'm more of the realistic,
what?
non-positive person. And Tyvis is the Mr. Positive, and Browns by a million every week. So
that's not
which
true.
I give him credit for.
That's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
That's not true.
When have you ever picked against the Browns? I guess, well, the 49ers you did.
Did I pick against them? No, we did. I didn't make a prediction that week. I don't think I gave a score prediction that week.
You had to. Wait, did we have a pod that week? Maybe we didn't.
You gotta keep receipts here.
We got to keep. Good thing we record. So we'll have to go back and listen.
We didn't have it against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah, we've had some bright lights here with the 49ers and.
If I think the Browns are going to lose, this is the key. I always keep the score pretty low. If I think the Browns is going to win like 24-13, then I truly in my heart believe the Browns is going to win 24-13.
All right. Well, I'm not going that high. I think it is going to be a low. I'm going to say it's going to be defense dominant. So I'll say 17-10 Browns. They won by a touchdown. How's that?
That ain't that far off of what I just said.
What'd you say?
24-13.
You said 24-17. 24-17.
I said
24-10 you said.
24-13 is where I'm at. 24-13.
Okay, you said 24-10.
I did, but then I switched it to 13. I got to give Jacksonville a little respect. 24-13.
Okay. All right.
ETN going to break a long run,
changing our
and that's
answers.
going to be about it.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what happens. This is and we probably won't know until obviously Sunday morning about who's starting, probably on both ends, just because of the way shit is. But Justin, thanks so much for jumping on with us tonight to talk about some Canadian football, some Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars. Maybe threw in a little Urban Meyer. We threw in a little bit of CFL, a little bit of
happy to do
what
it.
else? Tyvis shaking his head.
I gotta show him my CFL highlights.
Yeah, I need to see this.
You do.
I will show it to you.
Then we should do a whole episode on Tyvis's experience and plays.
I don't know if he wants to relive it though. It doesn't sound like.
Nope, not really.
Not so much. All right. Well, for the Orange is Oranger, I'm Holly. He's Tyvis. Justin, thank you again. Hope you lose on Sunday. No offense, but
yeah, that's okay.
We're on a Browns pod. Thanks, guys. Tyvis, give me a Give me an out.
Go Browns. Let's end this losing streak and get back on road. Playoffs, here we come.